What are the best ways to inoculate yourself from being victimized by these squatters? I mean, people have to go out of town. When I travel, I don't ever tell anybody I'm leaving or where I'm going or anything of the sort, just for security purposes. But what do you say to people other than don't signal to the world that you're leaving your house unattended? How do you protect yourself against squatters?
Yeah, I do have some prevention videos and I do consultations for people that want to specifically break down their situation. But in general, you need cameras and alarm system with cameras that you can literally look at. No matter where you are in the world, you can look at it on your phone, so that you can document when they enter. I have situations where, and I have a video where exactly like you mentioned, where a family went on vacation and they came home to a squatter and they were not allowed to enter their home. But it doesn't take a vacation. That's the thing. It's like, it's a matter of minutes. I mean, squatters can just drive by, see a nice house and send mail and start sending mail to a house, and then eventually get there before you do and have mail that shows their name at that address. So you just have to, be able to document when they come in, and, it gives you a fighting chance.
Yeah. And then some of the situations I deal with more regularly involve rental properties that are sitting empty. They're going through the make-ready process for the next tenant. And then someone is let into the unit somehow. Someone breaks in. I've had situations where my landlord didn't take my advice and he failed to change the locks on the property. That's a big one. I also advise that they cover all the windows, at least on the first floor. You don't want anyone sitting in. If they're not sure that the house is furnished, that someone's coming in and out, someone's living there, they're probably going to leave it alone. And I also like those little electrical timers that you can use. You can plug those in your wall and set those to turn lamps on at various intervals.
Make it look lived in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to touch base on Airbnb. One of the things, a lot of people are now becoming victims because of Airbnb. So I would just suggest the other thing would be, if you are Airbnb-ing your house, don't fall for I don't have a place to go. Can you just extend it for a couple days? Force them to go back to Airbnb and reserve it, because that's how these squatters are then removing Airbnb from liability, and it becomes all on the homeowner.
So they rent it for a weekend and then say, oh, hey, I'm stuck. Can I stay a few more days? And just pay you directly or something. Then they don't pay. Then they're there and then they can't get them out.
Yes, and that's what happened actually for the Elizabeth Hirschbaum one in Brentwood.
Right.
Exactly that scenario. He agreed to let her stay, a week or two more, and then Airbnb washed their hands from it because they say, look, it has nothing to do with us anymore.
Wow, took them out of the loop. That's all good advice. What do you tell homeowners not to do? Because, your obvious reaction, if you come home, somebody's in your house, your initial reaction is, well, that ain't working. So you just go in and want to grab them by the scruff of the neck and throw them out the front door. But you say, don't do that.
Now it's criminal. Now it's, and now you're going to jail. So nothing good will ever come of that. And I know that's not what a lot of people want to hear, especially in Texas. We're very proud of our homes here, but you will end up in jail as soon as even if you touch them, even if you grab them by their shirt, you're going to jail every single time. And they're probably looking for you to do something like that. So absolutely, hands off.
Even in your home.
Yes.
It's only property. Don't risk your own life. The moment you think you have a trespasser, a squatter, or anybody in your home, call law enforcement, let them assess the situation for you.
Yeah. And that castle doctrine stuff, it's all about someone breaking into your home and you're defending yourself.
And you have to be in the house when that happens.
Right.
You can't come home and then shoot somebody.
You can't come home and find them there and shoot them.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, listen, this is an important conversation because I think a lot of people's initial reaction is, I came home, somebody broke into my house. So I surprised a burglar. I surprised somebody, so I'm going to intervene. Hopefully people would just call the police, because I don't want anybody listening to us and saying, well, yeah, stand your ground, castle doctrine, whatever. At that point, there are ways to do this and ways not to do it. And the worst thing is you're in jail and they're living in your house. That's where that's worse than them just living in your house. You're living in jail and they're living in your house.
Exactly.
Now they're going to be there unassaulted by you or anybody else. Nobody's going to be harassing them because you're in jail.
And they have a restraining order on you.
Yeah. Now you can't come within 500 feet of your house. That's the worst possible scenario. Good grief. What is the world coming to?
United Nations estimates over 1 billion squatters worldwide.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, that you can find on the internet. So they cared enough about it to actually get a statistic and put it out there. You know, it's happening. It's not just a U.S. thing. It's a world thing.
Yeah, but I kind of wonder about those statistics on some level. It's, you know, what are they doing with the definition of what a squatter is? How many of the are they including favelas in there, for example? You know, it's what we're thinking of what a squatter really is. Someone who's taking hostile possession of a property.
Yeah.
Probably isn't totally lining up with those statistics, but I think it's high. I think it's on the increase. I think that influencer out of Florida, I can't remember the guy's name. He was encouraging and training illegals on how to use the system, how to use our civil system to occupy someone's house and how to stay in them. Florida's legislature did a great job putting together a pretty strong law. I think there's a small little wrinkle there that I'd like to have seen a little bit tighter, but overall, I think they did a great job of closing the gaps there.
Yeah, well, one of our squatter stories that we covered was involved in that law. She had a squatter in her home, and she's one of the ones that they did $40,000 worth of damage to before they could get them out. It was terrible. Nice little home, and it was up for sale, and cost her the sale because she had to go in and repair it and all that kind of stuff. It was just terrible.
And what kills me about all this is there are laws that can be enforced quite often. You know, I think your team may have located me with as a result of my involvement with evicting the Schwabs out of a property here in Texas. They ended up, after repeatedly victimizing landlords in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they went up to Colorado, and the county there didn't mess around. The county ended up burning them on an identity theft crime. And that's often, you know, when they're giving false identities to acquire possession of properties, which I see happening all the time. I'm dealing with one right now. And, you know, this tenant even put her own background check together, if you can believe that.
Really?
Fake pay stubs from ADP. I mean, it really looks sharp. She did a great job. I got to give it to her.
Yeah, but I mean, somebody that has that skill could do other things. I mean, if they put that much energy into it, what else could they do? That's absolutely crazy. I'm telling you, that's what the world's coming to. I hate that. I believe it comes down to just a sense of entitlement. And I'm glad you pointed out, both of you, that a lot of these people are not just trying to get in out of the weather. These are people that have resources, could rent a place. They're just trying to get by, you know, save money and get by. That's hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around. I cannot imagine staying in somebody's house for free and not paying them. And they're coming asking me to leave. No, I'm not going to leave because you can't make me. How could you sleep at night knowing you're in somebody's house?
These tenants often genuinely believe, because the landowner owns not just the home they live in, but another home they can rent out, that this person's rich. And I guess relative to the tenant, they often are. I don't know. I'm not the psychiatrist here. And
seriously, we had a woman on our show that's a realtor. She was saying that one of her attitudes was, hey, they're not using it. How are they going to miss it? What difference does it make? I can stay there. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. What an entitled attitude. But I want to put links up here. I'm so glad we've had this conversation. And Flash, with your permission, I would like to put a link up to your YouTube channel so people can find you. LaFern can talk to you and we'll know which ones you want to put up. If you've got something that kind of overviews everything that you do, we can put it up so people can know how to find you. Mark, the same thing. I'd like to put up a link to you so people, if they get in these situations, they can, find a good real estate lawyer that can advise them on this, because I don't want people getting in trouble, but I also don't want them suffering under this any more than they have to. So
right. It's unfortunate, Dr. Phil, that this eviction process, at least in Texas, is intended to be a very simple one. But as time has gone by, it's gotten quite complicated, and tenants are finding they're getting much more resourceful. After COVID, it just seems to me that a lot more tenants are going online and educating themselves about this stuff, and and that's great on one level. I'd much rather deal with an educated tenant, a tenant who understands, a tenant who's been educated on this process. It makes settlement a lot easier for me when that happens. But when they're using that information to just victimize the landlord and drag the process out, no one's really winning there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I have to say, and I know it's been going on for a long time, I think when we went through what I think was a terribly mismanaged quarantine situation, and we spent a lot of money with rent forgiveness and freezing mortgage payments and sending people free money, you just start teaching people you get a free ride.
One of the things that I think a lot of Americans missed about that legislation and about those moratoriums was this was the first time in our history that I'm aware of where our federal government said to one citizen, you are going to provide an entitlement to another citizen.
Right.
And that's kind of scary that we've let that camel's nose under the tent.
Well, I couldn't agree more. It's one thing if the government does it. It's still our money. It's our tax dollars. It's inflation, which reduces the value of our money. But to actually tell somebody that has a contract with somebody else you can't collect, that's a whole new level of ignorance. I was very much against that and said so. But it is what it is. Flash, if you'll give us guidance, we'll put up the proper links to you. We don't want to put up anything you don't want up. Some of that's proprietary, I'm sure, but you'll tell us what you do want up and we'll put it up. And Mark's same thing with you so people can find it. But the main thing is, do not take this into your own hands. Don't go in and become some vigilante and try to throw people through the picture window. You'll wind up with more trouble than getting somebody out of your house.